absolutely schmaced in the story, if you know what I mean. I don't think you do.
Getting absolutely wasted into the story.
Getting absolutely 2 shots of vodka,
Dumped into
half
the
handle.
bottom end.
Yeah.
Like straight from the handle. Bottle fed.
Baby bird style.
Yep.
I poured it in my mouth. I spit it into yours.
Yeah, exactly. And then I swallow it.
No, you spit it back into mine, and then...
And then...
You spit half of it back into mine, and then we both have a shot. Yeah. That's gross.
That's disgusting.
I never want to hear us ever speak of that kind of action again.
Let's just put that in the past.
Yep.
And yet the president's condition is still unknown at this time. A nation waits with...
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 2 of the Pwnzone podcast. Of course, your boy MoodyPlayz, Jarrett, here with the man himself.
Ben.
You know who he is.
You know who I am.
Look him up.
Look me up.
You should know by now. Today, with episode 2, we're going to be talking about the character, the antagonist of season 1, and the absolute joke of season 2.
Yeah.
And the God, what would you call him? The original Law in season 3.
Yep.
Replaced by Nathan Kress.
I still can't believe that happened.
When
When I first saw that, I was like, really? Okay.
Dude, and honestly, he is the Law. We could talk about him in this episode too.
Yeah,
we
that's
could.
true.
He is technically the Law. He is
technically the
new
law.
law.
New law. That's right.
New Law. What was the line said by oh crap, what's his name? Not Shane Pizza, the other guy. Ashley Barnstormer.
Yes.
Yeah, Ashley Barnstormer. Chicks love his good looks, and men love his nut-busting kill streaks.
Yep.
Or something along those lines.
Nut busting kill streaks.
That's the best line of that episode. Well, no. I think it was whenever Nathan snapped Law's fingers, and Law yells, "Oh, my Wazdies!" Just screaming at the floor, while both the brothers are sitting there just chilling. Like, oh my god. But today we're talking about the Law, both old Law and new Law, but
all the laws.
all the laws. We're gonna commit felonies. Yep. No. So we're gonna be talking about the Law today. So honestly, we just finished watching episode 2. It's kind of just a filler. Just kind of getting an idea of what the Law is for season 1. And of course, like we said, Law is the main antagonist of season 1.
Yes.
He is most hated by Brian D.
Yes.
Well, I guess Brian D, Key, and Ted.
Yeah.
Theodore. What do you want to call him? But so yeah. But just a quick few facts I actually know from watching this. The Law is actually one of the original members of Rocket Jump.
Really?
He stars in a lot of their skits, but I believe he is a writer for the show.
Okay.
That he plays. But yeah, no, he is one of the main writers for Rocket Jump, and he kind of just fit himself in because he feel like he fit the role best of being Law. Someone who's just kind of bigger, a little more intimidating of a figure. But he's really just talking with like the whole like crew. He's a really nice guy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I did, but like interviews and stuff.
Yeah,
he's a really nice guy.
I interviewed it. No.
No. If we can, that'd be great.
That'd be awesome.
But no, yeah. So along with Freddie Wong and the rest of the crew, Freddie Wong is one of the original creators of Rocket Jump. He's one of the writers. I can't remember his name, but I think I genuinely think it's Brian. I think his name is Brian. But so Law, main antagonist of season 1, notably is the varsity FPS captain. Yes. Where, of course, his game is Field of Fire, like we talked about in episode 1. That is the Call of Duty, the battlefield of this universe that the show takes place in. But Ben over here immediately right out the gate is like, dude, I hate him. Dude's an ass. And it's correct.
No, like, seriously. I mean, I get, that's his whole writing, but he plays it so well.
He does.
Right out of the gate, you're like, who is this guy? I don't know who this guy is, but I hate him.
Exactly. And personally, I think he plays it off really well.
Yeah.
Season 1, it's his arc. It's his villain arc.
Yeah, it's his villain arc.
And then
it's his story.
Of course, what does he do? He sets up Brian D in season 1 to be framed, not framed, but sabotaged. Sabotaged, yeah. And he just goes off and through the whole, I believe it is preliminaries. I may be wrong, but it's his first preliminary match where Brian just gets smoked by the Law.
Yeah.
Shoots Jenny with an RPG.
Yep.
Which also is really cool in that scene. Going on about that scene, because that whole scene's fantastic. If you guys obviously haven't seen the show, they did a whole song called "Long Arm of the Law," sung by the guy who plays Law in
Yep.
Jumping Jacks, who does the whole like "Long Arm of the Law," and then "Ooh, he's come for you now." Like, those whole lines are great. If you haven't listened to it, it's on Spotify. You can find it. Not Spotify, SoundCloud. You can find it. But it is really cool because we get to see that whole sequence where Law is just literally gunning him down, being super cool, like doing the poses,
Doing
just
the tricks. And
yeah, like just absolutely smoking Brian. But in that scene as well, there's also a writer who's the one who hands him the RPG. And because of that, that character wasn't supposed to be there. The writer wasn't supposed to play that guy who hands Brian the RPG. Somebody called in sick. And so for that shooting day, and the writer's like, well, I guess I'm putting on the stuff now. And he's like, yeah, you only have one line, so you can, he's like, I should be able to do it. That's no problem. And so, yeah, that's his only appearance ever in the show, minus the scene where he's sitting at the table playing.
Yeah.
That besides those two, but he doesn't have any lines for that. He's just filler in the background. But yeah, no. But yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah, no, it's kind of cool. When I was super hooked on the show, I watched a bunch of behind the scenes and stuff like that. And watching the show back, a lot of that stuff just kind of comes back. But no, it's super cool that one of the writers got to play the main antagonist. And I think what really fits his character, I think the most, is the fact that he's the only reason he is good is I think it's because his ego.
Yeah.
I think he thinks he's good, but only because there's people who are intimidated by him.
Yep.
It's his character. Like, if you're realistic, you watch, the man literally sits and plays with his gun for like 5 minutes in episode 1 before he actually shoots Brian, proceeding to then miss. You know? Like, your ego only gets you so far before it starts crippling you down.
Exactly.
I think we should learn from this. Don't be Law.
Don't be Law.
Be Calhoun.
Be yourself.
Be Calhoun.
Be Calhoun.
But, so I guess kind of going on to season 2, Law. It's his goofy arc, his rebuilding arc, where Law gets banned from VGHS due to cheating allegations.
Yep.
Which that whole arc is hilarious, with Shockbot and what's his face, but yeah, that whole bit. But yeah, so Brian is banned from VGHS because of allegations against aimbotting and stuff like that, because against video games are super big in this universe. Stan Lee makes a cameo in that, if you didn't know. Stan Lee is one of the guys who prosecutes against the Law, which is super funny.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, no, I'll have to show you later. No, yeah, he prosecutes against the Law, or what do you want to call it? Speaks against the Law in the courtroom. But it is funny just because the whole, I think that is season 2. I can be wrong. I think it's season 2. I don't remember how season 3 starts with season 3 starts. God, I'm blanking. Yeah, that is with the whole Brian and Ted hate each other. That's what that whole start is.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
So yeah, this episode,
remember that.
but episode 1 of that season, yeah, Law's prosecuted, which is super funny because the whole courtroom's CGI, because they're literally sitting at a dining room table looking thing with a big green screen behind them.
Yep.
And the spit take that they do that scene took like 13 takes. The guy had to do that spit take so many times because he couldn't get it like enough. I guess there was one time where he spits and nothing comes out, and Law's like, "What? What?" He just looks at him and screams, "What?" He's like, "I'm sorry." But no, like, yeah, he has this goofy arc where he's so fascinated with his damn RC car.
Yep.
You remember that?
Yep, I
he's
remember
so
that.
tied up with the RC car. He's also brought back temporarily by Mary Matrix, Jenny's mom, and he's having to be housed in Brian's room, and he's the absolute slob. He also hides like with his jacket. He also has this really weird big mustache that keeps getting bigger with every episode. And then there's an episode titled 20-Foot Range that he just kept walking around going, 20-foot range. And then like at the very end of season 2, I think Brian has to defuse a bomb and Cheeto gets caught on the RC car. And they're like, yeah.
Yes.
And the Laws, and the whole time it's like, Law, what are you doing? name's not Law. Like, walking around saying that. And in that scene alone, it's like, what happens to the RC car? You go chase it. And he goes, I can't chase it. It's out of range. And it's like, what do you mean it's out of range? Well, it's out of range. It goes home. And it's like, what are you talking about? The name's not Law. Takes his glasses off, puts them back on. Law. Like, the character alone's fantastic.
Because, like, in the whole first season, you just hate the guy.
He's a badass. He's super, like, the big cool guy. He has Jenny Matrix around his waist, like, the whole time. Like, literally the whole bit of, like, S in my D, style in my do, you know, because it's a high school. Even though high schoolers are doing way worse stuff now. But, like, that's the whole bit of the character. And now it's just, like, season 2 where he's just an absolute, like, he is the goofy character,
it's
the
that
joke
goofy
character.
background character that, like, you just laugh anytime he has a scene.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Because, I mean, like, you know, looking back at season 1, you're like, oh, that's what he used to be, and this is who he is now. And it's just hilarious.
And then with season 3, they introduced the second Law, which is the new Law, which you said before. Nathan Kress. Super cool, like, cameo for the season. Of course, at the very end of season 2, Law is brought in as a filler because of one of the characters dying in the game, dying in the round. So they bring in Law off the bench. And, of course, I think in that season as well, Law barfs all over the table.
Yes.
That happens. He also, and in season 3, I think he ends up going to work at, like, GameStop or something.
Yeah.
And he kills the guy with the Game Boy, not the Game Boy, the GameCube controller.
I remember that.
I think was it the GameCube controller? I think.
I remember.
Or was it the Super Nintendo controller? Not the Super Nintendo. I don't remember. It's something along those lines.
Yeah.
But it's one of the classic game controllers where he's like, go wait in the car, Brian. Spinning the controller around. The guy's like, I'll take the star credit. I'll take the star credit. He goes, go wait in the car. Like, swinging the thing around. And Brian's like, you don't have to kill him. He's like, go wait in the car. Like, the Law's character, just that rage that he has is so funny.
So funny.
But, yeah, the whole season, so at the end of season 2, he's brought in, barfs on the table, ends up getting better, wins the round, and at the end of the round, the Napalm Energy School, which is supposed to be an energy drink that made a high school just for gaming, which is an office building that people just work for the energy drink company. It's not a high school, but he gets hired on there, and he just literally walks out on VGHS after the whole thing. Well, season 3 starts, they fire Law, and they hire new Law, Nathan Kress, and by far the favorite scene in the whole show, Nathan Kress snapping his fingers and Law screaming, my WASD! The best line ever. But that whole season, we do see Law disappear.
Yep.
He doesn't come back until the very end when they do the final episode.
Yep.
But new Law is like this super, really, really good character, really good video game player that we see, of course, in the episode. Oh man, the episode where Jenny gets told that she's going to the Boston, not the Boston Crusaders, it's the Boston. Man, that's a DCI group. Like, I'm trying to think what it is, but you know what I'm saying? It's Boston something.
Boston something, yeah.
I think the Boston Snipers or something like that. It's something along those lines, but it's essentially like this. It would be like Dallas Cowboys of video games. Yeah. The professional grade. They do this for a living. It's their whole life. That's what they do. That's what she gets recruited for because of her sniping skills. But she, of course, gets this ruin whenever New Law comes in, is super good with knives, gets a bunch of kills, and does this whole thing. Well, of course, this is like early episode, I think 3 or 4. It's episode 3, where also in this episode, Brian is convinced that him and Jenny are going to bang.
Yes. Yep.
Which is super funny, too.
It's hilarious.
Of course, Law doesn't get it put into that, but just that's that episode. Of course, everyone's sitting there going, hold on, what? Starts looking it up right now. But at the end of this episode, or the end of that episode, near the end of that episode, Law is like going around killing everybody, really showing off that he's a really good player. We don't get to know more about New Law besides that.
Yeah.
Well, until episode 6, where Old Law and New Law, my cat is here, Old Law and New Law fight each other in just that.
Yep.
They fight for the title of Law. Yep. And they deem that where they're going to kill Key Swanson.
Yep.
And so that is the whole bit for them. Those two fight each other. Well, they team up to kill her, whoever kills her first, but they team up to do it. And so of course, there's this whole interaction between the two where New Law has these Desert Eagles and Old Law has these like old 1911 pistols, and Old Law's like, it's a lot of firepower. Don't think you can handle the recoil on those bad boys. And both New Law's like, I can blow you up right here, it wouldn't matter. And they still like go back and forth for a while, and they decide that they're going to kill Keith Swan. And of course, what's the first thing they do? They go run in a truck, flip the truck, and blows up, killing them both.
Yep.
Because both of them have an ego that's as big as whatever.
Oh my gosh.
But of course, just Law is a character, and I guess a title at this point now. That is just something that's so much fun. That I think is a character that you guys will enjoy when you watch the show. If you haven't already, if you have, let us know your thoughts on the Law. But I think
I still hate him.
Yeah, I think Ben will always hate him.
Yeah, no,
but
always.
But Law is definitely a side character past season 1, and I think that's good because I think you can't overuse Law too much.
I mean, you can't overuse a character.
In general.
All.
I mean, but
in general.
Because if you try to have that overarching character when you go from a show, or you go from a season 1 where he's the main antagonist to another season, you can't keep, in just good writing, you can't keep the same antagonist through your whole show.
Yeah.
You can't, I think even doing, bringing him back and making him even stronger in another season is good.
Yeah, I mean, that works, but
when you have 3 seasons, you can't do that.
Yeah, no. There has to be some change to the story there, because, obviously you have, the individual character development.
The cat is here chilling, and I don't know what he's trying to do here. I think he's trying to get to the microphone, but I don't know what he's trying to do. I'm going to try to keep him off of our little jank setup we have going on here, but I have a cat.
That is so cute.
He's fantastic. He's an asshole, but he's fantastic.
Anyway,
little cat moment.
Aww.
You probably just heard the cat.
What was I gonna say? Oh, the whole in the second episode, at the end of the second episode, whenever the Law comes down to Brian about to throw out his gear and stuff, and he's trying to act all nice, and then turns around and just demolishes Brian's keyboard.
Snaps the keyboard in half.
Snaps it in half. That's where you really see how he can play off that, you think he's a nice guy, but he's really not,
Oh, definitely.
Just shows more of his character, and that's where you really start to, realize that he's not as good as you think he may be.
No. And you remember the end of, I think it's episode... Maybe it's episode 4. It's Jenny's party.
Yes, the party.
The party where Law is first introduced to Brian.
Yep.
Because he doesn't act like the whole interaction at the end of 2 happened, where Law is like, what's up, Brian D? Not as much to play you had there. I ain't mad. No. And then they're talking, and Brian's like, what? Oh, and he's like, I was like, not much of a talker, is he, Jenny?
I love how your impression of Law is just like Deadpool.
Yeah, you're right. But I definitely think Law's like, you want a little tussle, Brian D? You want a tussle? I'll play you in any game in the house. And then like swoops Brian off his feet and like dances with him, and Brian's like, you have some good moves, and he's like, Law always wins. And then by far he's like, I want the DXX Machina or whatever it is, the dancing game.
Oh, yeah.
Dance Revolution, their version of it. And he's like, I want to play that. And Law's like, huh? It's like, it's in the garage. And he's like, oh. And he just drops Brian on the floor, just to the garage. And everyone runs to the garage. Law is main character energy for not being the main character.
Exactly.
And I love it.
Seriously, I mean, his whole just personality written in the show is just totally main character, but he's not.
I think in that scene alone is where he first introduces the whole mustache bit.
Yep.
And so he ducks down, pops back up, and goes, maybe hash or stash. He's like, you had that planned, didn't you? And he goes, oh, I did.
Oh, I did.
Or something along those lines. Law is such a character that I love.
He really is a character.
And I wanted to do this episode early because I kind of wanted to knock out with his character that it's very small in comparison.
His
screen time is very small compared to the rest of the show, especially since we get into season 3 with hour-long episodes where he's not there. And so when you compare it to screen time, Law is a very small character, but he has a lot of just that screen time.
There's a lot of story.
There is a lot of story. The show alone has a lot of story.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you get the whole like big picture thing
Right.
with season 1, and then
Season
season 2
two.
and 3 start bringing in more characters.
It brings in that sitcom style.
Exactly.
Yes.
Where there's like every episode they may bring in like 2 or 3, smaller stories, and they start bringing in more characters, more details.
C stories.
Yeah.
Because I think episode 1...
Like side quests.
Exactly. Episode 1's very perfect. I think for reintroducing the show again, we're doing season 2. It's a lot better. There's a lot more money involved. Because if you saw the numbers between season 1's production, season 2's, astronomical difference.
Really?
Season 1 did so well that it actually tripled the amount donated for season 2. And season 1 got somewhere in the ballpark of like a couple $100,000 or like $100,000 to do the show.
Dang.
So it did $300,000 to do season 2, and then season 3 did, I think, about $200.
Okay.
It did a little bit less, but they even announced it's the last season.
Yeah.
So I think if maybe they didn't announce it was going to be the last season, they probably could have done a little bit better.
Yeah.
That's also, if you're ever going to do something, never announce it's the last.
Yeah.
Until it's over.
Exactly.
But
Like it should be, you do it, and then you're like, all right, there's not going to be any more. That's the last.
Exactly.
You don't say, oh, we're about to release the last season.
Mm-hmm.
No. You release the season, and then you go, well,
you're setting expectations.
it's done. Yeah.
And you got to exceed those expectations that are set.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where season 3 is fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm not
no,
dissing season
absolutely.
3 at any way. I just think that it had a couple corners that were cut that didn't need to be cut, So, but other than that, the Law is such a character. I love the character. It's a funny character. I keep saying character. But like we were saying before, screen time wise, Law doesn't have a lot of it, and I think that's okay. I think you can't overuse a character, especially when you rewrite the character in a certain way that once you dethrone this egotistical man from season 1, and then you have the goofy one where he's trying to like build that confidence back up with this mustache that ever grows.
Just keeps
watch
growing.
season 2 and just watch the Law's stash. I think that was just the episode though. I don't think it was the whole season. But as the episode went on,
the
stash just grew.
Yep.
And it didn't,
kept getting
wasn't
bigger.
the same stash that was growing. The stash changed colors, it changed styles. At one point, it was literally the stereotypical, like, black, massive mustache that had, like, the handlebar on the end, right? With the little twirl. And, of course, the whole bit is the blue puffer jacket, the black hat, or the red hat, and 20-foot range. That whole, like, bit was hilarious. But she's fine. But yeah, no, I think that's it for this episode. We're getting into the 25-minute mark. Not trying to push these episodes too long, which just to say what's enough to say. Kind of give our thoughts about the character, the show, the bit, whatever it be. But yeah, stay tuned. We're actually going to be we're filming these in batches. This is actually the second one we're filming of the same night. We're going to kind of keep doing that same bit. Now, when we get into the longer episodes, where we kind of expand more on each episode alone, season 2, season 3, those episodes will get longer.
Yeah.
Or characters like Brian, Jenny, Key, Ted.
Oh, dude, when we talk about Brian, there's going to be so much to talk about.
So much.
Like, that may be a Brian part 1 and a Brian part 2.
And honestly, we can do a thing where we just talk about Brian and Jenny. We talk about Brian and Ted, Brian and Key.
Yeah.
We could just break it up into that. We don't have to make it one big episode. We don't have to do that.
true.
Unless people want a big episode. You never know. But hope you guys enjoyed episode 2 of us kind of talking about our favorite show here on the Pwnzone podcast. Of course, if you guys haven't seen the show, just figure out why we named it that. You see if you can figure it out. And if you can, fantastic. Bonus points to you.
Bonus point. You get a cookie.
You get a cookie. You're going to get a MoodyPlayz cookie. I will make a MoodyPlayz cookie.
cookie.
Fantastic.
This is getting fancy.
It is getting very fancy. This has been episode 2. Of course, partnering off of episode 1 with that whole charity thing. Of course, other than that, Ben, you have anything to say?
Yeah.
Since I cut you off last episode?
This is the end of episode 2.
All right, fantastic.